Sure.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. I think we're live. We're waiting for people to get on, so that's okay. But we'll go live in a second. We're just waiting for people, and we're a couple minutes early, so we'll just talk normal and kind of go through, like it said, like your guys' story and experience. And Brandy, nice to officially meet you. Except
Nice
seeing you
to meet you
across
as well.
a bunch of convention centers. So
Yeah, it's nice to meet you as well. I actually remember meeting you for the first time. I think it was at MEQ's when you sat next to me. I didn't know who you were at the time, and you was like, "So how does the team feel about all these people on the roster?" I was like, "That's a great question."
That was actually one of the things I was going to talk about when we're live, was explain to people that how Metro's team works is that it's one of the few national teams in the area. So if you guys want to play at that level,
Yeah,
it's kind of the only option. And
yeah.
I still remember seeing your bench, and then I went back and was watching film or just highlights. I went to nationals the year before, and I'm so bad at my job that I literally was just walking around getting highlights. And Bryah, you guys were 15s, and so everybody was talking about this like phenom on the Upper East Coast. And so they were talking about the class below. And so they were talking about Olivia Henry. And of course I had no clue. And so you were playing, but that year you and Nadia were like flip-flopped. And so I was getting highlights and you were out playing, or the match, and Nadia was at the end of the bench. And so I got highlights, and as I was going back and just cutting, like sorting highlights, here I zoomed in, and here's Nadia cheering at the end of the bench. And I looked, and like 3 of your starters were on the bench that year, and then like half of the roster was almost completely different a year later from, like match to match. And I'm like, most clubs that wouldn't go very well. And I'm sure it was hard, but that was one of the things I was going to talk to people about was, and I talked all last year about it, was I'm like, people, like, here's this girl, and I'm telling you, I just got to believe she's going to get recruited. Like, she's going to get recruited. And just because you don't hear about her, let the coaches do their job. And that was my whole thing with, you don't believe in rankings, and, and I joke about it now. And we'll joke about it later during the podcast as people come on, how mysteriously, like, do you even remember any of the rankings last year, Bryah?
Not really. I feel like I didn't pay much attention.
She didn't pay attention to that stuff.
Yeah. Well, and I
she still doesn't.
Well, what do you mean? You're a 5-star now, like miraculously.
Yeah.
And last year you were nowhere to be found, because we do the PPV. It's a college evaluation, right? And I'm like, well, when you're 6'5" and you're touching 10'6" or 10'7", there's a potential for college, right? Like, there's a extremely high ceiling, whatever. But ranking wise, you weren't ranked. And I'm like, I know you're going Power 4, and it's just, if you're at any other club, you're starting, you're playing all the time, whatever. And so then literally we come back this year and boom, you go from like not being ranked to a 5-star just with the snap of the fingers. I'm like, funny how that works, isn't it? You sign at Kentucky and now you're a 5-star just from a 0-star. And I'm like, oh, those rankings are funny, aren't they? But anyway, so we'll just talk because as everybody's tuning in and starting, I do this every year and I feel so bad because I've been through it now 4 times and feels like 40 times when I coached. You guys went through it where and in football and basketball, they take a year, right? Like they get to go on all the visits.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And so everybody, we'll skip and just get into it. If you're just tuning in and as you join us and go on later, and we'll record this and we will put it on the website, but I'm joined by Brandy. I'm going to call you my friend because it feels like we've tweeted back and forth.
It's cool. Hi, friend.
And you go to Kentucky and I end up in Lexington about 5 times a year. So we're going to be friends because I love that city. So I feel like we'll be seeing each other over the next few years. But Bryah and her mom, Brandy Breux, and I got to know them really well, and especially their story last year. And I say that Bryah is the poster child for waiting and this recruiting process. And I use her story all the time when talking to parents and recruits. I don't know if anybody ever listens, but I use it all the time when I say rankings don't matter. Whether you started a club doesn't matter. Your high school stats don't really matter. All of these things don't matter. High school stats, like I said, club stats, all tournament teams, all that junk doesn't matter. It's your college potential that matters. And she is the perfect example. And then I also like this. People say, well, when you're 6'6", and I'm like, you're right.
All the time.
That sounds about right. All the time.
You're right. Being 6'6" matters in college. It really does.
She passes the eye test.
Yeah. Like I said, I was 5'10". I ran a 5'6" 40, and I really love football, but that didn't matter to coaches. The 5'6" 40 kind of counted me out. It didn't matter how much I loved football. The guy that ran a 4'6" 40, they liked him a lot better. They just did. It didn't matter how much less he practiced than I did. They just loved that. That number was a really big deal, right? And so your 6'6" matters, right? The 6'5", that matters. And it just does. And so we invited them on the show, and we'll talk more. But as we get into their story, because this week we started, and I wanted to just lay the foundation as to why I had them on and then let them go. But as we start covering recruiting, that's what I do. So yes, with week 1 and the lead up, that's what my site does, is we cover recruiting. So everybody that signs week 1, yes, I'm going to talk about it and we're going to cover it. And yes, we want to get fan bases more involved. Okay. Especially that fan base at Kentucky. We want to get them excited about who's signing and who's coming in. But it doesn't mean that I don't care about the athletes that, are nervous and are worried and don't think they're going to get a scholarship, and they're going through, FOMO right now and they're having anxiety. Yeah, I care. When I started doing this, that was really all I cared about. But it's the value of covering recruiting. And And so I wanted to bring Bryah and her mom on to talk about that you really are okay. And this is a story of it actually helped them more to wait. And I'll give you a couple more examples for you to use that you really are okay. And every other sport out there, this is the normal way to do recruiting. You don't commit in 5 minutes. And there are a lot of very talented athletes out there. You're just seeing this right now. And we're not going to stop talking about it. And you recruit, commit in 6 months, 8 months, next summer, you're still all going to the exact same spot. Right? So if you've had bad luck, if you don't have offers now, it doesn't matter. It seems like the weight of the world right now. And we're going to ask Bryah what she went through and how she felt. But that's why we're doing this podcast now, because, yeah, I'm tweeting all the time. We're putting content all the time. That's what our website does, is covers recruiting. But we're going to update recruiting classes in August, in September, in December, just like we do now. And we'll give some more examples. So that's the reason for the podcast, is to explain to you, you're fine. You're fine. And in some examples, you're better if you wait. And this is one of them. So without further ado, I want to introduce Bryah and her mother, Brandy Breux, and from Metro Volleyball. And she's a Kentucky commit, go Cats, and let them tell their story. So ladies, thank you. And good to see you. So Bryah, let's just
having us.
Yeah. Let's get into it. 2026. So we say a verbal commit to the Cats, but Brandy or Bryah, just explain playing for Metro Volleyball. So maybe Brandy, set the stage, because Metro Volleyball is not your average volleyball club. So talk about roster size, first of all, at Metro compared to most clubs, because it shocked me.
Your football team? No, I'm just joking.
Yeah.
Let me not say that. Sylvia, don't watch this podcast.
No, it is what it is. And
no, yes. Yes, they do have a really large roster, which is something I probably could have did a little bit more research on before we made the switch, but it all worked out just fine. Yeah, we knew either way, because I don't know if you know, Bryah came from a smaller club, and we switched her 16th year because we knew that was a very important year for recruiting for her. And so we knew she was going to have to work hard at Metro, because like you said before, that's one of the only clubs that we really have in the DMV area that puts their athletes in environments where they have opportunity to showcase their talent and things like that, with traveling, all over the US to play volleyball. And so we knew it was going to be a challenge for her either way. So it was like a make or break. We were like, either you're about this life or you're not. And so fortunately, with the large roster, I think for her, she just really worked hard throughout the entire season, even when she wasn't playing. And there were a lot of conversations about, I know you're not on the floor, but coaches look at the intangibles. Are you cheering for your teammates when you're on the sidelines? What's your body language looking like? Showing that you are there not just for yourself, but for the people around you, and helping make everyone better. So lots of those kind of conversations, just to keep her kind of level-headed and not getting discouraged about not being on the floor. And, we just spent a lot of time in the gym. I've literally taught myself the sport. I was a basketball player in college, but I picked it up very easily, and I've just taught myself the sport so that I could help her. And so just constantly in the gym. And her opportunity came at nationals, and that's when she finally got a chance to play. They were running a 6-2 then, and her and Nadia were switching, coming in and out on the right side, and her stock went up after nationals, because she finally got to get on the floor and show that, hey, I can play this thing called volleyball. And so, waiting for her, not signing before nationals, I think was a huge advantage for her, just waiting and showing like other schools, like, look, I can really play volleyball, and I may not have all of the things, like all of the skills to a T, but you know, I'm athletic enough, I'm coachable enough to be able to, you know, pick up the sport and do whatever she needs to do to to succeed. So that's kind of our experience at Metro, just working hard even with a large roster, and knowing that your time, when it's your time, it's going to be your time regardless if it's 15 people on the bench or 20 people on the bench or whatever it may be, because we all know that with a lot of changes in the NCAA and even before that, teams are carrying large rosters, 18, you know, and only 6 people can get on the court. So either way, I think it was a good like, what's the word I'm looking for? But it was good for her to get that experience before heading off to college, having to really fight for something, because that's a little taste of what's going to happen when she gets to Kentucky. Like, you're going to have to fight every day for an opportunity to get on the floor.
Yeah. And then Bryah, I'll ask you a question, but my experience, and I joke because I tell people that everybody knows, and it's okay, my mom loves me, and I like myself enough that I'm okay laughing at myself, right? And everybody in the volleyball world knows that my IQ may not be the highest. And so when I walk around, I ask very simple questions. And so I go to watch this Metro team, and the first thing I see is this bench that goes on and on and on. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, is this 2 teams combined? And then I see Bryah on the bench, and I'm like, start asking people, AKA, you know, possibly coaches, like, why is that kid not playing? Like, why, you know, and literally, and then let's just say people may or may not have said, well, because maybe the best or one of the top 2 opposites in the country may be playing right in front of her, right? And which is great, because Bryah, you and Nadia get along, and Nadia is amazing. And I'm like, oh. And so then, Brandy, I think I had asked you, well, why did you guys, you know, like, very simple-minded person asked Mom, well, why'd you guys go there? Like, why did you go there then if Nadia Johnson's the best opposite in the country? You're like, well, there's not much of a choice. And so you guys are explaining the whole geography of Washington, D.C. area volleyball to me and kind of breaking it down. And so then I wrote immediately about you that, hey, there's this, you know, off the radar kid that's really hard to miss at Metro, and wrote a story about you. And that was way back. Like you said, at MEQ, and you would get in little bits at a time, right, Bryah? Like, I mean, points here and there. So first of all, let's go back during the season. What was it like? I mean, I'm sure hard, but what was it like to stay engaged during the year, not playing a ton on that team? Like, how, I mean, I know hard is just an easy answer, but what was it like for you during the year to just not play a lot?
Well, I mean, like you said, like, it was hard, but I think it was also really good for me just coming to Metro my first year. And my parents tell me all the time, like, you learn a lot from watching the game. And I could also watch the game and help my teammates, like, when they come on the bench. Oh, like, this shot is open. Watch the hitter. She likes to hit cross. Just, like, little things like that to just help the team. Just kind of staying engaged, not just for my own benefit, but for everyone's benefit, to help us win the game.
Okay, now I'm going to record that soundbite. And 90% of athletes and parents in America, I want you to listen to that and play that back. I said, what was it like sitting on the bench and watching most of the year? She said, I think it was really good for me. That is not the answer that most kids and parents would give. And you were right, because I kept watching you, and there was no negative body language. There was no hanging your head. There was none of that, you know, week after week. And when you get in, you would do anything. You would do things. And that's why I was like, okay, maybe, a lot of athletes will grow ahead of their skills, right? And you say, well, you're waiting for them to grow into their body is the big, term. And no, it wasn't like that. You could play, you just were playing behind somebody who was very, very good. And, which is why you probably picked the perfect culture to sign on to with that selfless attitude. But you just were engaged the whole time, and you were learning from somebody who was very good, but your team was like that. That's what I couldn't believe, is there wasn't any, with all the people on the bench, they were engaged and they weren't cheering for each other. And you guys were a very solid team that did very, very well. And when you got your chances, you played hard. And, but did you find that in the gym when coaches would come into the gym, like, was your recruiting coordinator getting any feedback, Brandy or Brian? Like, Bryah, were you getting, like, was your recruiting coordinator getting any feedback, like they were asking about Bryah, or, were you getting any feedback that way during the year that coaches were possibly asking about you?
I don't.
You want me to help you with this one?
Yeah, because I kind of don't even remember.
I know, it was kind of a blur. I mean, I feel like, we were sending emails throughout the season and just sending whatever footage that she had, even if it was just a minute from, a 3-4 day tournament, whatever it was, we put something together and we sent it off. And so there was like engagement that way, just, some schools responding, saying they were looking forward to seeing her play at the next tournament. Very generic, nothing like really just, sound hard. Oh, we look forward to seeing her do this and this part of her game develop, nothing like that. But everything was pretty generic until, June 15th hit.
Yeah. Well, and it would have to be, right? I mean, without seeing you play a ton, Bryah. But then as the year went on, you started to get just more natural attention later on, just natural attention. Where did you go to any of the NTDP stuff before, like in the spring or the summer? Yeah. When did you do the first training session? When did you get your first invite?
I think my first invite was fall 2023. This was like, I had already planned to move to Metro, but I actually hadn't gotten there yet. So that was my first one. And then I've just kind of been going to them ever since that.
Yeah. So you have been doing some things there, which, is all potential based, right, as well. And you've done some camp things, right? But as far as seeing you play, so what was it like? I guess what I'm wondering is, interest-wise, so when the recruiting thing is coming, was it frustrating, or were you hopeful? I'm just trying to get an idea of mindset for you heading into your June 15th. What was your mindset? Because you hadn't played a lot, but you had some experience and some success before, and you were on a great team. Where was your mindset at as far as your approach heading into June?
June 15th, I feel like I was pretty positive, just coming in with an open mind, because it was my first June 15th. So I think I was just really open-minded and I wasn't really stressed out about it much. I was very hopeful and confident in myself that I was going to get the interest that I wanted and stuff like that.
Right. And so, Brandy, that's where I want to bring you in too. How were you guys approaching that? The interest, where was it your plan to hey, we're just going to wait on purpose and see, or hey, if we get the right offer right away, or were you planning on going to as many camps as you could and just seeing what was out there and taking your time, or did it just work out that way?
No, that was always the plan. I was totally against the committing on the first day that you talk to a coach. I mean, sending emails and getting those generic emails is one thing, but actually talking to people and having real conversations, finding out, I'm an energy person. So I feel like when I talk to people, I can feel if their energy is genuine or not. And so, we just told her to have an open mind. If you would have asked her 3 years ago, she wanted to be in Hawaii somewhere next to the water on the beach and good food. But as she started to have conversations with different coaches and things, that's when she started to find out what it was that she was looking for once she started having conversations with multiple coaches. But yeah, we always went in, we were like, we'll do a couple of camps to schools that you think that you may really be interested in. We'll take a stop at those camps. And we only did 2 camps. Summer. We only did 2 camps last summer, and Kentucky was one of them. And that was pretty much it. The year before that, she did about 3 camps.
Yeah, I went to...
it was 3. Yeah. And so we always knew that she was going to take her time. We weren't going to let anybody rush her, and she was going to take whatever time that she needed that was appropriate for her.
Sure. Well, and the biggest thing is, like, you'd kind of touched on it with high school females, like they're just not sure what they want. And that changes so much frequently. And the athletes that I've talked to that have decommitted and recommitted, like I still remember this day talking to Aiden Ames. She's like, I am such a different person than I was 12 months ago. I'm not even close to the same person that I was, and my thoughts, my beliefs, and like I can't even imagine that person. So I think completely different, and I want different things, and which I know we're never going to go. Volleyball will never go to the football model, but I know I'm totally the loud minority here, but I've said it numerous times. I think the best girls, the girls that got the best recruiting experience last year were the Kansas commits that were at Oregon. And when Matt Ulmer took the new coaching job to Kansas, they all decommitted and then went to other schools because they all got time, right? Because they were in high demand and there was no pressure put on them because multiple schools then were after them. So they got as much time as they wanted. So they were all able to actually take visits, take their time, go see wherever they wanted to see, because they had multiple schools, and they were like football and basketball. They were actually in charge of their recruiting. Does that make sense? Where they were the ones being recruited, where 90% of volleyball athletes are still recruiting colleges. Where we call it recruiting, but really what it is, hey, it's you and another girl, and whoever calls me back first gets the scholarship. Well, that's not recruiting. That's being pressured into accepting an offer.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I think it's like a domino effect. If one program is doing it, then the other program has to do it to keep up, and then the other program, and then it's just like, it just goes on and on and on. And I'm a firm believer that, and I knew for her, like, you're going to be where you're supposed to be. And if they really want you bad enough, they'll wait.
But that doesn't happen.
Surprise here.
Right, but that doesn't actually happen, because what happens is they get 2 or 3. Right. And I totally get it. And I'll say it for the 100th time. I understand why coaches do it. Right. Because exactly right now there's 4 or 5, whatever coaches are watching, they're sitting there saying, well, if I don't do that and my competition does that, guess what?
Yeah.
They get them. and I get a crappy class and I'm fired. Right? That's what they're saying.
Important for the athletes that are listening now and the kids that are to come after. This is important because I think if there's a class that says, you know what, y'all, we're not doing that. We're not going to do that. We're going to take our time. I think parents, if you're listening too, like you have to understand that you're the one that's actually in control. And you know, but you drive this boat here.
The hardest thing is the prestige programs are the ones that do it the most. And I get along with,
which is bizarre because it's like you can have anybody you want in the country. Like, why are you pressing a kid when you could literally have anybody that you want? So why can't you take your time as well?
Sometimes the top athletes get pressured the most.
I know they do. I've heard some stories.
But it doesn't matter, right? It's like that, the bigger the logo, the more the pressure. And they're like, you really want to go to school X? And I like those coaches.
And you know what my concern is? I think, especially now with the transfer portal, is that it's like, okay, I'll just commit to this school. And if it doesn't work out, I'll just jump in the portal. And, you know, for her, I'm like, you know, Bryah, you don't want to go in that with that mindset. Like, this is my automatic next plan. Like, you want to save yourself the heartache and like try to figure out what it is that you really want, what feels like home to you, so that you can actually see yourself in those spaces for 4 years and not having to bounce around from school to school trying to find the perfect match. There's no perfect match. That's another story for another podcast day. Yeah. But you know, you still like, you should take enough time to where you could at least see yourself at least 4 years, you know. But
right. Well, and that's why I really go off on when I see very good fits. I really go crazy, and people are like, oh my God, you know, like, you went crazy. Could you quit talking about the fit? And I'm like, no, because there are so very few good fits, because so many kids commit to a logo, or they commit sight unseen, or they just commit to, I watched them on ESPN 14 times, so I'm just going to go there. And you have no clue what you're going to. So when I really see one that I have a good idea of the athlete, and a program has let me in enough, like yours, right, where I know, and I've gotten to know you guys, and I see a fit, I'm like, oh, yes, because I see plenty where I'm like, oil, water, right, and I'm just like, we'll see, and I don't. Right. And the problem is it's 3 years down the road and everybody forgets what I said anyways. Right. And they get 3 others. But the point of why I really like this is back to the Oregon, Kansas situation. It's kind of what happened with you. We go to nationals. Right. And the funny part of the story was Nadia, and we got to bring this up. So we go, look at that, Bryah. Who's that? Who's that kid?
You don't even look the same anymore.
I hold
my braces off.
I hold on to all these. And when you guys get too big ahead sometime, when you're like an All-American, then we have you back on and we're like, just when you get too cocky, we're going to bring these pictures out. But, no, so Nadia, right, signs early and gets a great job, goes Baylor. And what happens at nationals, all of a sudden I'm looking around, people talk to, and I start wandering down. And here in like the farthest corner of that convention center, there is like standing room only, like 2 deep on this court. I'm like, what is going on? Well, what's going on is this Metro team is playing, and there's like 48 coaches around this court. Well, who's playing on that court, Bryah?
Me.
Yeah, you. And like every coach and their dog is there recruiting you at nationals. So you go to being the most recruited athlete in the country because you hadn't committed, right? And are the most recruitable athlete there. And so what happens at nationals now because you're taking your time. So tell everybody about that, what it's like at nationals now.
So like before nationals, I was getting like pretty good interest. And then like after nationals, like I just had a lot more interest because I took my time and waited to see, because I didn't have like a dream school that I was just like, oh, I want to go here for sure. Like if they offer me, I'm going here. So I really just took that time after nationals to really showcase my skills and keep an open mind and talk to a bunch of new coaches that I saw.
Yeah, and let's be honest. There were some schools that had been on you the whole time. There were some bigger schools that had missed out on their number one, right? And now you were their second or third. Let's just be honest. That's recruiting. So they were coming after you, right? And then there were some other ones that like, hey, we may have one, but this is an unbelievable project. Let's try and get a second. And they're all there watching you, but there's a ton of interest where if you just commit to the first school that offers you, you don't get that interest.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now that could be overwhelming or that could be a great deal. Right? So how did you guys approach that then? How did you guys approach that with nationals, Brandy, when all those schools then are showing interest?
I mean, she took the same approach that she took before June 15th, or during June, like right after June 15th, just, talking to everybody, giving everybody a chance. I even had a coach here and there come up to me and I'm like, you have to talk to her and see, I wanted to make sure that she was the driver in the seat, and in control of her recruiting, because she has to be there for 4 years, not me. So we just took that same approach of her just giving everybody a chance, having those conversations, really was trying to take her visits. Yeah. But then she went to the Kentucky camp in July and she fell in love. So, yeah. And I still was like, you sure you don't want to take a couple of visits? We could give.
Yeah, I would.
Come on. See, that's the difference with guys and girls. A football player would have taken everyone. It's the best meal.
Free food, put you in a nice hotel. Like, come on. Like, we've been working hard. It's time for these schools to wine and dine. It's like we're doing football and basketball.
That's right. Especially the SEC. The SEC, you do it in the fall, you get to go to like 4 amazing football games. Right? Like,
right. We could have been going on a tour here. But
yeah,
no.
I'll skip the tour. I'll just go to the football game and get the good seats and the great meal. And one campus is just the same as all of them.
The schools are different when they're in session. Everybody's on campus. You get a better vibe of if you can see yourself in spaces outside of the volleyball gym, right? Yeah. Can I see myself in this little courtyard hanging here with some teammates or some friends that I met in my science course, whatever, I don't know, but just being able to see yourself in real time in those spaces is why I think, the visits are so important. Because you get to see what the student body looks like when everybody's there. Yeah.
And I don't know. Volleyball is just, I'll hear from so many volleyball players like, oh, I want to get it done before my season because I'm busy. And every football player is like, no, I get to take off.
Man.
Like right after a football.
And they don't pressure the boys. And the coaches, if you're listening, y'all don't pressure those boys like that. They pressure the girls, though. And I don't know what it is, but I don't like it.
Because the boys,
they don't, boys get to take their time, do what they need to do. And I'm just like, why can't
we need more parents like you to step up? I'm telling you, when that 260-pound middle linebacker goes into coach and he's like, I've said this, right? And I'm not going to tell you what the coaches say back to me, but I've said to them, I'm like, the number one middle linebacker in the country goes in on his visit, camp, whatever, or I guess Zoom, because they never get to a visit, right? They never get it in person, but it goes on his Zoom and says, okay, I want this and this and this and this. And the number one setter in the country goes, Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
You're number one for a reason, honey.
I know. It's like, yes, sir. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll call you right back. Like, can I please do you a favor? I mean.
Yeah. And it's hard for me to kind of, that's just a hard topic because I just feel like, again, female, male, we're a little bit more sensitive, more emotional. And so you play on our heartstrings like you're gonna take someone else before us, then kids do get a little frazzled. And then if you don't have parents, and no shade to all the parents, because I know all the parents are doing the best that they can.
I know.
Some of us don't have the resources, don't have the knowledge.
I know
How much in control you are, because obviously you just want to see your kid do well. You want to see your kid at a big program. You want to see your kid be successful. So I get it. I think for Bryah, we were blessed enough to have a couple of people that were very in tuned in the sports volleyball world that kind of helped us navigate all of this and was like, hey, no, this is a good program. No, these are really good people. And so that kind of helped a lot, just having a couple of people that work in the, NCAA and have worked in ESPN, worked with SEC and have relationships with some SEC volleyball coaches. We were able to just kind of really weed some things out and take our time. And not everybody has that advantage, but if you don't, I suggest that you just do your research and really do your due diligence and making sure that, your child is making a good decision for them and not just for the program. Like, it's a two-way street. Like, this is a relationship, and I should be feeling like my needs are met, and you should feel like your needs are met as well. But obviously they are. You're recruiting me. So now I need to see if this is a good fit for me.
Well, and it's, I mean, I've made enough people mad, speaking my mind. I mean, I get less and less. I have, I mean, no recruiting coordinator is ever going to come up to you and say, hey, I'm bad at my job. They're all going to tell you they're great, but I've been around a lot of them. They're not all great, right? Like I'm around whatever top 10 prospects and they're a week out and they have no clue what they're going to do. And I'm like, those coaches are going to eat you for lunch, they're doing the same thing. And the other problem is some of the same problems go on year after year with the same programs. And what happens, females, is they just want to get away from it. So they don't come back and talk about the bad things. They just want to run away from it, right? So they won't come back and say, hey, coach, beep at program X. Like, they just want to run away from it. And so then what happens is the program does it year after year after year, right? And anyways, that's something different. But what the great thing is, Brian, and getting back to it, that athletes that are out there now, like, explain to them how much time and how many great opportunities there still are. That we're literally 1 week. It's 1 week. So they see all these posts and all the stuff that we're doing, but it's 1 week. You took about a month, I think, wasn't total, because the Kentucky camp was a week or two after nationals. Mm-hmm. And then you took another, I think, week after that. So you went a full month, 5 weeks. Did it feel long for you? Or, I mean, by the time you committed?
I think there were some days where it did feel long because I was like just on the phone like every day for a few weeks. But I really did enjoy the process, just getting to know a bunch of new people, stepping out of my comfort zone, because I it's not like every day you get to interview with coaches and just talk to coaches and get to know their programs. So I think like taking my time like made me feel really good. Like I wasn't stressed out. Like when people there was like 80 commits in the first week, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. But I don't think it stressed me out much because I was just trying to stay on my own timeline because everyone's different.
Yeah. And yes, and you're going to end up a lot happier than some of those people that committed in 6 hours, right? Like because they do that, that doesn't mean that's Cinderella for them. That's what I want to understand. That doesn't mean that was the perfect choice. Because they committed fast doesn't mean it was perfect for them, right? It doesn't. That they made a great social media post. That's awesome. That doesn't mean that was the perfect choice. So because people are waiting, was it Bergdorf that committed with Penn State, the 20 Haley, who's crushing it now, senior to be a part of that class. God, was it 6 weeks into that class of, I think, 25? The rankings, and we didn't have her PPV is very high either. It's gotten better and better and better. I want to say it was almost 6 to 7 weeks into the process. It's going to come in as like their second, I think, highest rated in that class for them, going to Penn State. Defending national champions. They are crushing everything right now. Haley Bergdorf is doing everything right. Things are pretty good and happy in Penn State right now. Would you guys not agree?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
I mean, in her class, Kendall, she didn't commit to when.
Kendall Northern. Thank you.
She's
first interview ever.
What I wanted Bryah to do, but it's okay. She took her visit.
Hey, don't give Brian a bigger head. No. He gets excited enough about his recruiting job he's doing. No, I'm just Kendall. I love, and another one under the radar before she did it. Yes, but what I mean is he wasn't signing in a day, like. We talked to her at nationals at your court for my mind. Yes, at your court. And she's like,
they played each other. Yeah, we did. They played at nationals last year.
Yeah. And she's like, no, I'm actually taking a family vacation. God forbid, right? Like, she's like, I'm not talking to coaches for a week after nationals. And things are working out okay for her. I mean, moving up the, NTDP chain, like things are okay, people. I hope kids are listening because they get so stressed out by this first week and all this. And yes, I will say it. We cover it. That's our job. Mm-hmm. Okay? And yes, we have to retweet and post about the Nebraska commits or else nobody subscribes and stuff. We have to get subscriptions. We do. And I like that. And that's interesting. That's conversation, but don't get down on yourselves because you don't get an offer in week one. Right. And
even their team, they've had some recent commits. Everybody finds their perfect fit, whether it's a Power 4 or it's there's still other D1 schools. If your goal is just to go D1, there's other programs that are not necessarily Power 4 schools that will be a good fit. And so a few of her teammates are just finding their fits, and one of them personally that she's really close with loves her fit. I got it. Go ahead.
That's all right.
That's my little toddler. She just woke from her late nap.
I got two of those. They cry like that if they don't. Theirs are bones if they don't get them. But
so like you said, just take your time. Like don't feel pressured from social media. Parents don't feel pressure from other parents talking about, oh, my kid just committed and she's going, okay, that's fine. Congratulations to your child, and we're doing our things, So it's not getting caught up in all of the noise.
You want to put that on there and I hope they're not rubbing it in people's face because you go somewhere and you don't go somewhere else, because you know what? In 2 years or 3 years when they don't make it, right? Because a lot of these girls are not going to make it at Glamour School A, right? we don't put that back on social media and say, hey, make a post about this, because they don't make it. We don't tell that story, right? And somebody that went to their school has an amazing career, right? And you want to talk about draft picks? When it goes to the pros, most of the time they're taking the best professional ready athlete no matter where you go, because their job's to win, right? So we watched the NFL draft. It's not always the Alabama lineman. The higher up you go, it's the better athlete, and the one who's more professional ready, regardless of the school, right? And that weeds itself out the higher you go. And I just want that message to get out there. Like, you got to hear it. And your school, I don't know, Bryah, if you were following your soon-to-be teammates, but I just laugh because every year I'm like, okay, I always call them Coach Skinner commits. And I'm like, they're just Kentucky commits are just going to be there. Like, they don't walk up and down like Fifth Avenue, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't go to the like glamour clubs, and that by no means can you be ranked in the top 10 anywhere. Like, they just can't be. Coach Skinner they got to be like clicky. Does that make sense? Like Bellevue bus. Like, you got to be like live in Idaho or Montana, or you're like an odd case being in Washington, D.C., So yesterday we just go get another middle from Montana. That's just what Kentucky kind of does, or Idaho, or, you know what I'm saying? Like, you're kind of the oddball coming from Washington, D.C. Metro is a pretty big club for Kentucky to go get a recruit from. You're like the biggest city they ever recruit at, I think. Just what it is. But anyway, so what, if you had to do it, were you glad that you took your time? Or, I mean,
I was definitely glad that I took my time, because like some of the schools I was talking to, like there's been like a lot of switches, like coaches going to different programs. Just like, wow, I'm glad I didn't commit there, because then I would have decommitted. And just seeing all the people who decommitted, just like really taking my time to get to know people, I think God was just really on my side, because it's just been crazy, and I think it was good taking my time.
Yeah. I also asked Craig, I was like, Craig, you ain't going nowhere in the next, 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, we just asking those questions also helped.
He was like, Brandy, what did he say? He was like, if I was leaving, I would have left by now. I was like, okay, that's what I like to hear.
That Lexington Country Club.
You'll sign a commit, and then you'll be out the door smoking with something better. So.
He's going to that country club maybe to golf a couple more rounds is about all he's got. No, it's just it's a family there, and they've good man, but what advice do you have, Brandy, for parents that get so caught up with it in everything? One, I guess child's playing time. One, you kind of dealt with that, and that's not easy to do. And that worked out.
Yeah, it wasn't easy. I had my moments. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm just innocent, because I'm like, I felt like every girl on the roster deserved to be out there, but it was just too many of them.
Yeah.
And everybody couldn't play. And so I had to shift my focus to her, and was like, okay, we're playing the long-term game here. Let's get what we can out of this experience, whether it's just, like you said, when walking past the court and you see a 6'4" kid standing on the sideline with her frame and looking the way she looks, just being in those environments, I'm just like, this is the goal, just, to get the looks. The goal is to get looks, to, intrigue people enough to want to find out more about her. And then, we just spent a lot of, like I said before, just a lot of time in the gym. I'm a solution type person. I'm like, well, we can control what we can control the controllables, because there's some things that you just cannot control. So what we could control was the work that she was putting in outside of the gym when she wasn't getting playing time. And I think, she ended up reaping her rewards, everything she sowed in the gym outside of practice. She finally got her shot at nationals, and everything just kind of came together when it needed to, because she was still doing the work. So to my parents out there who kids are struggling and not getting playing time, just keep doing the work, keep contacting the coaches, whatever film you have. If it's 30 seconds, send whatever you have. Record practices. If your kid's not getting on the floor during games, try to get some film during practice and send that to them. And just show them that you're still working regardless of, your court time, and just go from there.
Right. Now, there is a precursor, people listening. Bryah is a Power 4 prospect. Okay. Now, right, there's one thing, it's being realistic, right? When we talk about in our Straight Talk series, knowing your lane, right? And that's the hardest thing, right? I had to come to the realization that I wasn't a college athlete at all. And that's really hard. Okay. That's hard. And knowing where you fit is the biggest realization at all. Okay. 5'8", outside hitter who maybe plays in the smallest class in your state. You may dominate stat wise in your state. Doesn't mean the Kentucky coaches are calling you, right? And I don't mean that sarcastically at all. I just mean that you may put up 16 kills a night in your, league in high school, and you've started since you were a 7th grader. It just doesn't matter with college recruiting, right? And Bryah has some God-given gifts that not everybody has. That was a key factor in her getting recruited. Okay. Now, she also works very hard. If she didn't work very hard to improve on those skills and gifts, she wouldn't have gotten recruited. Okay. But there were definitely some things given that got her recruited. Okay. So we also don't want to fool you that you're sitting around just thinking, oh, they said if I just work hard and play at nationals, I'll get Kentucky calling me. No, right? You got to be realistic with where you're at. But what we're saying is just because you didn't commit in week 1 is no reason, right, to give up and get frustrated. There's a lot of great players whose opportunities come later, right? And much later. And I'm just saying that being patient and waiting. And I know there were some kids this week that were frustrated that maybe were expecting something and were maybe number 2 on a list and were slow played. And that sucks. That hurts. That really, really does. Right? Yeah. And you've probably heard more stories now since, the longer you go, it hurts. This is a business, and they don't tell you about the business side until you get into the business side. And it stinks. And until you realize it, you never believe people that are telling you about it. But all you can do is go back to work the next day, right? And ask more questions the next time you're there, right? And it's not going to do any good. Feel bad. You feel bad for your little bit, and then you get back out there and you start making calls, you start making more emails, and you reach out to more schools. If you're somebody that went through that bad part of recruiting, I feel bad for you because it's hard. It happens in the business world. It does. And parents, if you went through that with your kid, I'm sure it's gut-wrenching, but it's the business side. And don't think coaches take enjoyment out of that part either. They don't. They have jobs, and there's a reason they do things. And it is very, very hard. And I can say, I told you so. I wouldn't have believed somebody, the 50-year-old man telling me either, right? Because you want to believe the positive, and you want to believe all the good things somebody's telling you about yourself, and you want to believe you're getting that scholarship, right? We all want to, but it happens. And all I can say is the next time, just try and read the coach better, try and, but it is definitely part of this that is the crappy part. And, we've all been there, and I'm sorry that you had to go through it. And unfortunately, you might go through it again, and just be appreciative the next time when you get that opportunity. So if that's happened to you, be more cautious. But you know what? Sitting on it isn't going to help you get the next scholarship. You go back to work tomorrow. tell coaches if you're going to be in Dallas, do exactly what you're doing in January. Do it again. You tell them what court you're going to be on, right? And you tell them how excited you are to see them. You tell them how bad you want to play at their school, and you go play your rear end off like Bryah did last year. So that's all I have. Where are you guys going to be? Are you guys going to be in Dallas?
Yes, we will be in Dallas.
All right. Now listen, I'm a year older, so could we ask for a court closer to center court this year? I can't walk as far as I did last year to watch you. No, but you. So you guys made a switch. So now, are you outside or are you opposite? Nadia and you. What are you? How are we doing that this year?
So this year we've ran a 6-2 basically the entire season. So Nadia starts and then we just rotate out after.
It's good. You're giving that arm of hers a little bit of a rest.
Yes.
The Baylor coaches are probably saying thank you. They'd like a little bit left when she gets there next year. But well, good. If you do, message me when you get your schedule. Message me because I would like to come say hi and watch you guys a little bit. By the time you get there, I'm gonna be tired of eating amazing Dallas food. And waddle around. But no, I thank you guys.
So are you gonna be there earlier than are you?
Yeah. When do I go? Wednesday
age?
night. Yeah, I'm going Wednesday. Wednesday evening, and then I leave. I'm gonna watch the matches Tuesday, and then I'll fly home. Back. I'm out helping with taking care of my mom for a little bit. So I'm out at mom and dad's for a couple weeks, and this is tournament or recruiting central here in the basements. Spring 17. I got my room. Working on my parents' basement. I should come up with a screen name and go on that volley talk and just nothing's changed. I'm just a computer guy in the basement of my parents' house. So so I'm here and I'll leave Wednesday night and go watch the 15s for a couple days and then watch 16, 17s for the, what is it? When do you guys start? Monday, right?
Monday, yeah.
I'll watch you guys Monday, Tuesday, and then fly back Tuesday night. So so I'm excited. So there we go. Wrestling, #1 wrestling commit just decommitted. So all my Iowa fans are freaking out, but that's another topic. So, but you guys, thank you so much for your time. And anytime you get a chance, Bryah, to talk to younger athletes, do, because you got a great story and the way you handled it was amazing. And you can, Brandy, you need to start a pep club there at Kentucky. We need to whatever's
excited.
We need to quadruple times 10 the fans there.
Yeah. Well, hopefully when Bryah gets there, they'll feel like they need to come out.
I say this year. I think there's good things this year.
Oh no, there's definitely good things happening this year.
Yeah.
So, Kentucky, Craig's doing a great job. Craig and his staff are doing a phenomenal job. So,
for like 20 years,
people would appreciate that program more. I was pretty impressed once we started to get to know a little bit more about the program. So,
well, have you not followed VBAdrenaline I've been carrying that flag for like 4 years.
I don't know what it is, but I'll definitely be there when she's there with my signs and everything. I'll be Kentucky blued out. My face will be blue. Everything will be blue. Bleed blue.
Sounds good. Well, I thank you guys for your time, and Bryah, great story. Keep working hard, and what you're supposed to do is go look up your PPV score and tell me it's too low and start yelling at me and tell me it needs to be higher. So
All right.
do that before national. So, hey, thank you guys for your time. Everybody, thanks for watching the podcast. We'll be back. Next time, we're talking about a little bit of fan passion for the fan bases, and we'll be back in a week or so. Have fun at nationals, everybody. Athletes, good luck, and we'll see y'all later. So take care. Thanks, you guys.
Bye.
See ya.